Thank you, Dean Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. And we have some news for our kababayans abroad who want to vote in the May 12 midterm elections. Philippine embassies and consulates are letting everyone know that the Commission on Elections has actually extended the online voting enrollment until May 10th. In Beijing, tensions are rising after China issued a strong warning to the United States in response to a new CIA campaign encouraging Chinese officials to spy for Washington.
China will take all necessary measures to resolutely crack down on the infiltration and sabotage activities of anti-China forces abroad, firmly safeguard national sovereignty, and develop security interests.
And the news starts now. Big move out of Asia over the weekend. Japan, China, South Korea, and the 10 ASEAN nations have agreed to beef up their financial safety net. They launched a new lending facility aimed at swiftly responding to crises caused by pandemics and natural disasters. The finance leaders of the so-called ASEAN Plus 3 group agreed at their meeting in Milan, Italy on Sunday to establish the new facility under their currency swap arrangement known as the Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization, or CMIM. The CMIM, created after the 1997-98 Asian financial crisis, is designed to support regional financial stability by allowing members to tap currency swap lines. The new rapid financing facility will enable members to access emergency financing without conditions in case of financial crisis arising from sudden shocks. The CMIM pool currently amounts to $240 billion in foreign exchange reserves, with Japan and China each contributing $76.8 billion, South Korea $38.4 billion, and the 10 Association of Southeast Asian Nations members a combined $48 billion. The CMIM's two existing facilities, a crisis resolution instrument and a precautionary line, have never been utilized as members have turned to other resources with simpler decision-making processes such as bilateral swap lines. Supporters of senatorial candidate Rodante Marcoleta arrived early at the Philippine Arena complex, traveling by buses, jeeps, and private cars. Now they gathered for his grand meeting, the Avance, one of the final campaign events before the upcoming Monday elections. Many attendees came from various provinces to show their support. Among them were senior citizens advocating for better healthcare benefits. Originally planned for Quezon Memorial Circle, the event was relocated to the Philippine Arena and the adjacent Philippine Stadium to accommodate the large crowd. Residents from neighboring towns also attended to demonstrate their backing. Security measures were in place, with personnel checking attendees' belongings, managing traffic flow. The NLEX Corporation had previously announced the event, advising motorists of potential delays.
Sana po magkaroon kami ng mga libre medical, yun nga po, yung sa benepisya sa mga senior po.
Ang nakikita ko po sa kanya is maganda ang kanyang hangarin para sa amin ng mga senior citizens.
Ay, siyempre parang nakita ko sa kanya na maasahan naman siya. At sana maalaala kami ni Marcolita.
Sana ang gusto ko mabigyan niya pansin, mga kababaihan, mga PWD, mga senior citizen.
And we have some news for our kababayans abroad who want to vote in the May 12 midterm elections. Philippine embassies and consulates are letting everyone know that the Commission on Elections has actually extended the online voting enrollment until May 10th. So if you're an overseas Filipino voter and haven't registered your phone yet, now's the time to do it. Our consulate in Milan is even urging everyone to register ASAP and is offering help if you're having trouble. The Chicago consulate also posted about the May 10th deadline. And in South Korea, the embassy is reminding all registered voters to complete that pre-voting enrollment to make sure your online vote counts. Just recently, our embassy in Jordan also held a special mobile registration event to help Filipinos there get set up to vote. In other news tonight, in Beijing, tensions are rising after China issued a strong warning to the United States in response to a new CIA campaign encouraging Chinese officials to spy for Washington. The controversy began when the CIA released a pair of Mandarin language videos on social media last week. The videos, which quickly went viral, openly invite Chinese officials to share state secrets with the CIA, promising them safety and a better future if they cooperate. And the agency says it's trying to reach out to those who may be disillusioned with President Xi Jinping's government. CIA Director John Ratcliffe defended the move, saying, "Our agency must continue responding to this threat with urgency, creativity, and grit. And these videos are just one of the ways we are doing this," unquote. He called China's America's most formidable strategic competitor and said the CIA is ramping up its focus on Beijing. China, however, is not taking this lightly.
For a long time, the United States has used various despicable means to steal secrets of other countries, interfere in other countries' internal affairs, and subvert other countries' regimes, which seriously violates international law and basic norms of international relations and seriously endangers international security and stability. The video released by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency on social media is another self-confession with solid evidence. The United States not only maliciously smears and attacks China, but also blatantly deceives and lures Chinese personnel to turn side, and even directly targets Chinese government officials. This is a serious violation of China's national interests and a naked political provocation. China strongly condemns this. China will take all necessary measures to resolutely crack down on the infiltration and sabotage activities of anti-China forces abroad, firmly safeguard national sovereignty, and develop security interests.
The European Union is standing firm against pressure from Washington, with EU Trade Commissioner Maros Sefcovic making it clear that the bloc will not be pushed into an unfair trade deal with the U.S. Sefcovic told the European Parliament that while the EU's preferred outcome is a negotiated settlement, he said this:
We do not feel weak. We do not feel under undue pressure to accept the deal which would not be fair for us. We are absolutely clear that we are the biggest trading bloc on this planet, with very strong economy and with very biggest actually the network of our free trade agreements. And we know that this negotiation might not in the end succeed despite of all our sincere efforts. So therefore, we of course are preparing for the possible and might be needed rebalancing.
Currently, U.S. tariffs cover about 70% of EU goods traded with the U.S., and that figure could rise to 97% as the Trump administration considers expanding tariffs to sectors like pharmaceuticals and semiconductors.
So the EU has made clear that we are ready to discuss and we are ready to find mutually beneficial solutions respecting our interest and regulatory autonomy. We now need the US to show its readiness to make progress towards a fair and balanced solution. And I have already shared the approach with my US counterparts as a basis for further engagement. But if our talks with the US do not yield the necessary result, we will be ready for alternative, with the aim of restoring a level playing field. Therefore, we are also using the 90-day pause to continue our preparation for further rebalancing measures to counter the multitude of additional US tariffs on EU exports.
And now to the war in Ukraine. The Kremlin said that Russian forces still planned to cease fire in Ukraine from May 8 to the 10th, as per President Vladimir Putin's orders, but would respond if Ukrainian forces tried to strike Russian positions. President Putin on April 28 declared a 3-day ceasefire to mark the 80th anniversary of the victory of the Soviet Union and its allies over Nazi Germany in World War II. The Kremlin said the 72-hour ceasefire would run on May 8th to May 9th, when Putin will host international leaders on Moscow's Red Square, including Chinese President Xi Jinping, and May 10. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has so far appeared to rule out such a brief ceasefire, saying he's only ready to sign up to a ceasefire that would last at least 30 days, an idea Putin has said needs a lot of work before it could become a reality. Asked what Russia would do if Zelensky did not sign up to the 3-day ceasefire, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said this.
Огонь будет прекращен, но в случае, если взаимности со стороны
The fire will be ceased, but if there is no reciprocity from the side of the Kiev regime and attempts to attack our positions or our facilities continue, appropriate response will be given immediately.
адекватный ответ. Пока
For now we can add that, unfortunately, we still have not heard from Kiev,
слышали
from representatives of the regime,
жители режима от
from the head of the regime, we have not heard a single statement talking about readiness to join this holiday time truce.
шла бы речь о готовности присоединиться к этому праздничному перемирию.
Tensions are escalating in the Middle East, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signaling a significant expansion of military operations in Gaza. And we're learning that his security cabinet has approved plans for an intensive offensive, potentially including control of the Gaza Strip and aid distribution. But as we'll hear, this move is sparking fierce opposition both within Israel and from international aid organizations. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
Last night, we stayed up late in the cabinet and decided on an intensified operation in Gaza. It was the Chief of Staff's recommendation to proceed, as he put it, towards the defeat of Hamas. And along the way, he believes this will also help us rescue the hostages. And I agree with him. We are not letting go of this effort, and we will not give up on anyone.
The decision to step up military action in Gaza comes after weeks of failed attempts to agree to a ceasefire with Hamas. To carry this out, the military has called up tens of thousands of reservists. But the plan is not sitting well with many Israelis. In Jerusalem, protesters clashed with police as they voiced their opposition to Netanyahu's plans. Protester Ifat Gadot says Netanyahu is just trying to hang on to power.
Now, Bibi, a corrupt and criminal leader, which only wants to stay in his throne. He only wants to be in reign. And he doesn't care if Israel burns to the ground on the way. He is sacrificing the hostages. He is sacrificing our sons and daughters, which are combat soldiers, which are going into Gaza and will die in vain only for his reign.
At the Israeli parliament, the families of the hostages wandered through the building's corridors and attended legislative committee meetings. They are urging the government to stop the war and reach a ceasefire which includes the release of the remaining hostages, dead or alive. These relatives fear the stepped-up military action will put the lives of the remaining hostages at risk.
Hearing that we're going back to war is not what we wanted to hear. We have seen that hostages die during warfare. We know that the deceased hostages might get lost as the bombing continues, and we are dreading this moment.
All the families are very scared about this new maneuvering because there's no guarantee that it will get us to where the families want and the people of Israel, which is the return of the last hostage.
The humanitarian situation in Gaza has deteriorated, and now Israel wants to transfer the handling of humanitarian aid to private companies instead of relying on international aid groups and UN organizations. It argues this will keep the aid from falling into the hands of Hamas. But the UN says that plan contravenes humanitarian principles. UN spokeswoman Olga Sharevko says having Israel control aid is a recipe for disaster and could put those helping out in harm's way.
This contravenes humanitarian principles, as this would basically shut down the existing aid delivery mechanism that already operates within the bounds of humanitarian principles. This would violate the humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence, and could also put people at risk by, including aid workers, by having them around these militarized zones.
With aid virtually cut off, Gazans struggle to survive. There's no food, no water, no medicine, and no aid is reaching them. Store shelves are empty. Children carry empty pots with the hope of finding something, anything, to put in them to ease the hunger pangs.
The situation here is extremely difficult. The children are exhausted from hunger, and we adults can't even walk in the streets. There is no medicine, no flour, and vegetable prices are very high. A single tomato costs 5 shekels, as does an onion. Life here is extremely harsh. We appeal to the Arab countries and the world to look at us, save us. We in Gaza are perishing and dying from hunger.
Since the war began, Palestinian health agencies say Israel's ground and air operations have killed more than 52,000 people, most of them civilians. For those who have survived the devastation of their territory and are now living in the harshest of conditions, peace seems as far off as ever. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
In a move to combat international cybercrime, the U.S. Treasury Department has imposed sanctions on a Myanmar warlord, his 2 sons, and the militia they lead for orchestrating large-scale online scams, human trafficking, and cross-border smuggling operations. The U.S. just slapped some serious sanctions on a Myanmar warlord, Sao Chit-thu, along with his sons and his militia, the Karen National Army. Why? According to the Treasury, this group is deep into some really bad stuff, running cyber crimes that target Americans, plus being major players in human trafficking and smuggling. The UN has warned about this kind of trafficking in Southeast Asia, where people are forced into these online scam operations. And the Karen National Army's base, a so-called special economic zone called Shwe Ko Ko on the Thai-Myanmar border, is where the U.S. says they actually lease land and provide security for compounds where these trafficked folks are forced to carry out those online scams. Staying in Southeast Asia, you know some governments change hands every few years, but not in Singapore. The People's Action Party has just won again, marking over 6 decades of continuous rule. And with that, a strong mandate for their new leader, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. Take a look.
We are grateful once again for your strong mandate.
Singapore's People's Action Party cruised to victory Saturday, winning its 14th successive election and extending its 6-decade rule. The PAP won 87 of the 97 parliamentary seats up for grabs, delivering a strong mandate for Prime Minister Lawrence Wong.
We will honor the trust that you have given to us by working even harder for all of you.
The PAP saw victories by huge margins in many of the 33 constituencies, while the opposition failed to extend gains in previous contests. Voters went to the polls amid some signs of disenchantment with the PAP's tight grip on power in the Asian financial hub, whose 6 million people have known no other kind of government. Although a PAP defeat was always extremely unlikely, some analysts had said the election could have altered the future political dynamic if the opposition had made more gains. Instead, the outcome will be seen as a ringing public endorsement of U.S.-educated Wong. The 52-year-old became Singapore's 4th prime minister last year, promising continuity as well as new blood and a new style of leadership. He must now address high living costs and a shortage of housing amid a recession risk and job losses if its trade-dependent economy takes a hit from steep U.S. tariffs.
Maybe the government shouldn't change too much. So I think status quo is alright for me. Because let's say if the government keep changing, there's like too much in and out, going out of the parliament thing. I believe even the current government, they wouldn't be confident of themselves, like 5 years, 10 years down the road, would they still be there? So maybe they wouldn't like to plan for long term, 20 years, 15 years thing. Because I believe running a country, is for like a really, really long run.
See the old people clean the table. My heart cried when the old man with walking stick, he like that, no? I thought so. So I also like that. I thought so. It's peace. Then another man said, no, he want $2. So there are beggars around. Lee Kuan Yew time, no beggars. Progress. So we want accountability. We want openness. We want compassion. We want transparency. We want accountability.
In Washington, major changes are underway at the Pentagon. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered a 20% reduction in the number of four-star generals and admirals, the highest ranks in the U.S. military, deepening a wave of cuts that's shaking up the Department of Defense at the start of President Trump's second term. Take a look. Hegseth, who's been outspoken about what he sees as bloated senior leadership, laid out the policy in a memo in a video posted on X, saying,
"We're back with more DoD reforms. This one is General and Flag Officer Reductions. That's the official title. My title is Less Generals, More GIs. It's a historic one, and it's in keeping with President Trump's commitment to achieving peace through strength. We're going to shift resources from bloated headquarters elements to our warfighters." Let's take a bit of a trip down memory lane. In history, when we were fighting across the globe during World War II, it used to be a ratio of 1 general to 6,000 troops. Today, it's 1 general to 1,400. More generals and admirals does not equal more success.
He emphasized this wasn't about punishing top brass, adding,
"Now, this is not a slash and burn exercise meant to punish high-ranking officers. Nothing could be further from the truth. This has been a deliberative process, working with the Joint Chiefs of Staff with one goal: maximizing strategic readiness and operational effectiveness by making prudent reductions in the general and flag officer ranks."
And the cuts don't stop there. Hegseth's memo also calls for a minimum 20% reduction in the number of general officers in the National Guard and an additional 10% cut among general and flag officers across the military. Since taking office, Hegseth has already removed several top military leaders, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Navy's top admiral, and the director of the National Security Agency. But not everyone is on board. Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee, voiced skepticism, saying Hegseth has a track record of firing military leaders without a cause.
Secretary's inner circle of hand-picked advisors have nearly all resigned or been fired. His chief of staff was dismissed amid allegations of incompetence and unsettling personal behavior. 3 of his senior policy advisors were fired for allegedly leaking sensitive information, which they all staunchly deny. And his top spokesman resigned after losing confidence in the secretary and writing, and I'll quote, "The building is in disarray under Hegseth's leadership." And furthermore, quote, "The last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon, and it's becoming a real problem for the administration." And this was the words of Secretary Hegseth's self-selected top spokesperson. This chain of events is extraordinary and underscores the concerns I raised at Secretary Hegseth's nomination hearing. He does not possess the temperament and management skills needed to lead the Pentagon, and he's proving that over and over.
A diplomatic row has erupted between Germany and key members of the Trump administration after Berlin officially labeled the far-right AfD party a confirmed right-wing extremist group. Now, the move announced by the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution gives German authorities expanded powers to surveil the AfD, including using informants, wiretaps, and undercover operations nationwide. The classification made by Germany's domestic intelligence agency, the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution, has drawn sharp criticism from prominent U.S. conservatives, including former Vice President J.D. Vance, former Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and tech billionaire Elon Musk. Let's start with Secretary Rubio's reaction. He took to X, formerly Twitter, condemning the move as tyranny in disguise, claiming Germany has effectively given its spy agency expanded powers to surveil a legitimate opposition party. He said, Germany just gave its spy agency new powers to surveil the opposition. That's not democracy. It's tyranny in disguise. What is truly extremist is not the popular AfD, which took second in the recent election, but rather the establishment's deadly open border immigration policies that the AfD opposes. Germany should reverse course. Germany's foreign ministry responded swiftly and firmly, directly replying to Rubio's post on X with a simple, "This is democracy." They emphasized that the BFV's decision followed a thorough and independent investigation intended to protect Germany's constitutional order. The criticism didn't stop with Rubio. Vice President J.D. Vance also weighed in, claiming on X that the Berlin Wall was being rebuilt by German elites, not by Soviets or Russians. Tesla CEO Elon Musk echoed Vance's sentiments, reposting his comments and adding, "Fate loves irony." It's worth noting that Musk previously expressed support for the AfD, hosting a live stream conversation with party leader Alice Weidel. While the BFV's reclassification of the AfD represents a significant escalation, the agency had already labeled the party a suspected threat in certain eastern states.
The AfD represents an ethnic concept that discriminates against entire population groups. Citizens with a history of migration are treated as second-class Germans. This clearly contradicts the guarantee of human dignity in Article 1 of the Constitution. Their nationalist attitude is reflected in racist statements, especially against immigrants and Muslims.
This new nationwide designation allows authorities to use informants, wiretaps, and undercover surveillance against the party. Unsurprisingly, AfD leaders are condemning the classification, calling it politically motivated and vowing to challenge it in court. A spokesperson confirmed they've lodged a challenge with the administrative court in Cologne. Here's a statement from the AfD leaders Alice Weidel and Tino Tripola. Current polls show the AfD as the strongest force. The federal government only has 4 days left in office. The intelligence service doesn't even have a president, and the classification as a suspected case hasn't been finalized in court. The AfD will continue to illegally defend itself against these defamatory attacks that endanger democracy. This transatlantic clash continues to intensify as both the U.S. and Germany navigate internal political shifts amid rising tensions between Washington and its European partners. It's goodbye to an old friend in the world of online communication. Today was the final day for Skype, the video calling service many of us used for years. Its parent company, Microsoft, has decided to shut it down for good, pushing users towards their newer platform, Microsoft Teams. Even a UNESCO World Heritage Site isn't immune to the power of nature. Over the weekend, hundreds of tourists visiting Jordan's ancient city of Petra had to be evacuated. Heavy rainfall led to significant flooding within the archaeological site, as you can see in this video of water rushing through the iconic treasury. Jordanian authorities made the decision to temporarily close the site on Sunday afternoon. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. Now, ever wondered if robots could truly learn and adapt like living beings? Well, a Swedish AI startup says they've just taken a giant leap in that direction. They've created a robot dog named Luna, and they claim it has a digital nervous system that functions surprisingly like ours. Take a look.
This is Luna. Though the robot dog may look like other mechanical canines, Luna is a bit different. It has a functional digital nervous system and can learn and adapt like humans and many animals, according to Intuicell, the company behind the bot. The firm says that could help future robots solve problems in dangerous places, like Mars. Victor Luthman is the CEO and co-founder of the Swedish AI startup.
There's no billion-dollar data center in the background. There's no pre-training on massive amounts of data. There's no offline simulations. We have created the first software that allows any machine to learn like humans and animals do.
Luna is one of the first use cases of physical agentic AI, which can make decisions and take actions towards specific goals, rather than just perform narrow tasks or generate content. In other words, the robot dog would be able to learn like a real dog. For instance, instead of a generative AI model and vast datasets, Intuicell will hire a dog trainer to teach Luna to walk.
Right now, Luna is like a headless chicken. So we tell her to stand. She has a target height and the balance that she wants to reach, but she has no idea how to do it. She autonomously figures out how to control her body in the environment, and she learns through those interactions. That's her input to the system.
While Luna can currently stand up on its feet, the robot dog would perceive, process, and improve through direct interactions with the world.
And to put that in perspective, you can imagine a newborn giraffe on the savannah, or a newborn baby.
Lothman said the next step is exploring human-like robots in unpredictable environments, such as space exploration, deep sea exploration, or disaster response. Intelligent machines could be sent to Mars, for example, to build future habitats for people, Lothman said.
It's impossible to train them on everything that might happen while they're there. They need to be able to figure things out and to experiment in that environment. So this is the technology that will allow any agent to do such exploration.
Intuicell is funded by venture capital firms in Sweden and Norway, as well as the European Union.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.